and they threw me on the middle of the road and they said that, look here, we are leaving you because we don't want you to make too much noise. But in any other day, we would have probably killed you. Many people who donate would do it under stress or pressure or to curry favor with whoever is in power. There are proxies who are fronting for some other individuals or companies whose identity would also come up in the coming days. Many a times there are accusations that the CEOs of these election bodies have color-coded names. People who are positive to a party have one color, people who are opposed to it have the other color. There was a professor in Ashoka University called Sabyasachi Das, where he pointed out in 2019 there were all the seats which had a close fight, they went to the BJP. And he was suggesting that there was something more. That gentleman was chased out from the university that he was teaching.
Joining me today is Mr. Sanjay Kapoor, senior journalist, editor of Hard News magazine, and member of the Editors Guild of India, who until recently served as the General Secretary of the EGI.
Yeah.
Thank you,
true.
Sanjay ji, for talking to me.
Okay.
Welcome to Unbreak the News.
Oh, it's been wonderful to come here and talk to you. I've been very keen to get onto this program of yours.
Yeah, the pleasure is mine, sir. My first question to you is, the Election Commission has announced the poll dates, and in exactly a month from now, India will go for polls. But we have seen numerous controversies shaping up in the last few months. Let's talk about the electoral bonds, for instance. The citizen who goes to the poll booth and votes has the right to know who has funded the political parties. He or she may or may not choose to vote. But despite the Supreme Court wrapping the State Bank of India not once, not twice, several times, as we speak till date, the SBI has not made the entire electoral bond related data public. How do you see the recent developments, and what impact do you think this is going to have on the elections?
I'm not very sure what kind of impact it would have on elections, because in my reckoning, corruption and money related issues don't really impact voting behavior of the people. But it will certainly impact political parties, the leadership, whenever tough questions are being asked about to the source of funding, how you bringing the money, and what is really happening with it. And that becomes the raw material for subsequent, you can say, investigation or scrutiny by the enforcement agencies if they show any kind of keenness. Till now, they're only bothered about raiding opposition ruled states or opposition ruled individuals. So in my reckoning, this is a very, very interesting development. It has the, it has the making of something far more significant, and that is empowering institutions in a manner that we've not seen in the last 10 years. It's possible in the coming days that we might see regrowing of a spine of many courts, the lower courts, the individuals who have to look the government in the eye, but that has to carry on for the next few more days and months and weeks for them to suddenly grow in strength, because in a certain way there's been great reluctance on the part of agencies, individuals to look the powers that be in the eye before they take any decision. Coming back to your original question about whether why the government has been, or for that matter, the SBI has been rather reluctant to take this matter forward. It is very obvious. I mean, the fact of the matter is, if you see the sequence of events, whether it was the manner in which the SBI decided to share the details, they had to be persuaded at every stage, and subsequently you had the AG, the SG stepping up and criticizing whatever has been done. Yesterday we saw the very unsavory spectacle of lawyers standing up and being actually trashed by the Supreme Court CJI in a manner that we had not seen earlier. In fact, if you also have been going through the headlines, you'll find that the industry bodies decided to also prevent the Supreme Court from going forward, but the plea was not entertained. So, if you look at, there are two different things that are happening. You have the Supreme Court, which is extremely aggressive on this issue. They want everything to come out in the open. And you have uh, individuals who are probably siding with the state at the moment, who are keen that it should be stopped. For that matter, you had Mr. Tushar Mehta standing up and saying that this information being used by NGOs and others in a certain manner. Supreme Court said their shoulders are rather broad and they needn't really bother about it. Then you had the industry bodies who want to prevent that. And the SBI is dragging his feet. I think at some stage, the Supreme Court has to haul up the chairman of SBI, tell him that if he doesn't give that, they have been saying time and again, but they continue to do that. But they have to make an example of him.
Yeah.
So I think it is at a very tricky stage. But having said that, elections are just the money doesn't only come from the electoral bonds, it comes through various other means. There are black money, there is cash, there are so many other ways that it has come. And many of the individuals who are contesting elections, the people who are involved in the electoral process,
Hmm.
for them, the electoral bond is an indicator of how popular your party may be, but they source their funding from other means also. For
Hmm.
that matter, even the Congress, whichever is in power in Karnataka, would have great amount of money. BJP in Haryana and many other states in Gujarat, for that matter, they would make their own, organize their own resources. So, in a certain way, you have parties and individuals who rely on these, you can say, the electoral funds primarily because they are white money and they can be explained. But there is a colossal amount of funds that they generate to fight election, which is a very extremely expensive proposition in India.
Yeah. So you spoke about the last court proceedings on this issue, and what was most striking was the way in which the lawyer representing the SPI addressed the entire issue, almost saying casually to the Supreme Court that whatever the court wants, we don't have a problem giving. To which the CJI said that this is not the right approach, and the SBI should give all the data in its possession without withholding any information, which includes the unique alphanumeric number corresponding to each bond. So is the SBI under pressure to not disclose this data and put the disclosures on hold till the elections are over? We saw that you also spoke about how the SBI has been dilly-dallying over this since the last couple of weeks. But what kind of pressure is exactly being exerted on the SBI?
I think the pressure is not there very visibly, so not to reveal the entire information. That is why you have Mr. Adish Agarwal, who's the president of Supreme Court Bar Association, standing up and writing a letter, which he was not mandated to do, to the President of India, asking her to intervene and to prevent the exposure of the entire thing. Yeah, the State Bank of India, which at every stage has to be prodded, cajoled, threatened by the CGI to take it forward. Then you have all these lawyers who just stand up to do their bidding of the people the individuals whose brief they hold, and in a certain way, uh, full credit to the CGI who's seeing through these designs, who's seeing through this entire machinations in a certain way, which and preventing it from being stalled. Otherwise,
Hmm.
we were used to watching a very sad spectacle of important, judicial processes coming a cropper. But this time, I think they've been able to see the end of it, and hopefully, more information pertaining to these bonds, especially the alphanumeric codes which are there, the numbers which identify the people who have given these funds. I mean, you look at the number of people who are there, many of them rather unsavory. You have a gentleman who was not a Tata or a Birla, but somebody, Mr. Martin, in
Satya
southern
Martin.
part of India, yeah, who has given so much money to the BJP, the DMK, and others. And there are many other people. In fact, I'm sure there are proxies who are fronting for some other individuals or companies whose identity would also come up in the coming days. But the most disturbing part is there are many people who have been raided by ED and IT and others, and they are the ones who are cuffed up. There would be reports also subsequent to their donation, what really happened. Did they go scot free? We are rather unsure at the moment, but
Hmm.
more details are going to come out. I think it's a matter of great importance, not only for the judiciary, but for the media. They need to dig their knives in and take out more. But
Hmm.
tragically, there are only few who will truly do that. You look at all the mainstream publications and the media, they're rather lackadaisical about this entire expose. TV especially is rather silent. You look at it, I mean, they're talking about stuff totally unrelated to it in a manner that we haven't seen. and they have the gall and the cheek to say that a lot of things are going to happen, and they seem to be just trumpeting that the case of the party in part. So it's a distressing scenario, but I think if the courts continue to press ahead, which seemed very unlikely for a long time, but if they continue to do it in the next 10, 15 days, I'm sure you'll see the tide turn.
Yeah, I mean, as you rightly said, we've not seen many stories coming forth in the television media, but of course, in on the digital side, a lot of independent news organizations have come up with excellent stories, even when the full disclosures are still, it's not out in the public domain. But you've been speaking about the
Very true.
companies with information that is already out in the public domain, and with regard to the companies that have donated funds to political parties. In many cases, as you've said, we can clearly see a quid pro quo. It can be established in some cases. Some companies have donated funds that have far exceeded their net profits for the year. And in some other cases, there are companies whose names figured in investigations by central agencies who have then gone on to donate funds. These kinds of quid pro quo deals, what does it say about a democracy, and how do you analyze the donations in light of the latest revelations?
To be fair, I've covered elections for the last so many years, seen so many governments come and go. Uh, the fact that the bitter fact is, or the painful fact is that many people who donate would do it under stress or pressure or to curry favor with whoever is in power. So what is being witnessed now is no departure, no improvement over whatever was happening all this while.
Hmm.
What has come through is that there was a guarantee by the government, by the state, that their names and identity would not come out. And it's all coming out in a manner that we know nobody really expected. But in this particular case, in this case of this regime, they try to give an impression that everybody is correct except them. And that is unraveling in a manner that we never expected, because their entire politics revolves around telling that they are fighting corruption. They are the ones who are in the process of cleaning up the mess that has been left behind by the Congress party. But look at it how they have done it. They have used agencies and every possible instrument to get the money out of them. And they are all getting whitewashed by the state, primarily because they have cupped up to the political parties of their choice.
Hmm.
So that kind of cracks the mirror in which they have been seeing. And that is a very important thing for a democracy. Let's
Hmm.
see how it really impacts our election, which I'm rather unsure it will really do.
Hmm.
But it is going to rattle the leaders of various political parties. They will probably have to run around manning and minding their own affairs, because this is only the first stage when it has come out. If there is more digging in by the media and by other agencies about these individuals, it is also possible there is a lot of round tripping that is taking place, money going from here, coming back through the Mauritius route, and showing up as white money. That is eminently possible. There would be a great amount of money which has been pulled in from other resources and brought here.
Hmm.
So more details are awaited. A lot more has to be known.
Hmm.
There would be also questions about ED. It's not that the ED is going to go scot free. I think what the Supreme Court should do is to actually appoint a SIT and do a hearing on a day-to-day basis. That will really give momentum to this entire cause.
Yeah. Now, coming to another issue, there has been a lot of apprehension over the EVMs. The opposition has been bringing it up time and again. The Supreme Court had recently rejected two writ petitions, one against the apprehension over 19 lakh missing EVMs from the Election Commission's custody, and another over the use of ballot papers to conduct the elections. So, what is the entire controversy related to EVMs? If you can put this in perspective, are these concerns over EVMs genuine?
So the jury is still out on EVM. I mean, if you remember way back in the 90s, EVM came in as a replacement for the ballot paper, because ballot paper was not seen to be efficient, and there were cases about stuffing of ballot boxes. I remember being actually picked out from a constituency in Haryana called Meham, and because I saw it with my own eyes how the ballot paper were being stuffed in a ballot box by the goons of whoever is in power. and they threw me on the middle of the road and they said that, look here, we are leaving you because we don't want you to make too much noise. But then in any other day, we would have probably killed you. So
Right.
that is the kind of violence which used to happen. Come Mr. TN session, and thereafter things began to get better. There was better use of security forces, technology, and assurance from the state about from the election commission that they would allow people to vote. The coming of EVM is a continuation of that process, although it happened apparently after session went away. But it has, in a some way, inspired a lot of people to come out and vote because they thought that there was a guarantee that their vote would remain counted. But their misgivings began when many of the people, especially started off, let's remember that the misgivings emanated from the BJP. There's a gentleman called GBL Narasimha Rao, who's a psephologist of sorts and quite a spokesperson of the BJP, who wrote a book on how EVM can be fixed. So they are the ones who began this entire propaganda that there is a lot of mess that which is go resides into the machine. We don't know the source code. We don't know this and how it could be manipulated. So Congress was in power then. So the matter went to the Supreme Court. It has gone in all about 10 times. So the first time it probably went then, and there has been a certain amount of ambivalence which has been displayed by the Supreme Court. Sometimes they said that they would look into it and then they would be prompted or whatever may have happened, they would not get into it. But the manner in which the Supreme Court has gone about it has created certain kind of misgiving because they don't take a very final, you know, view on this. And that is why you have had 10 occasions in which the issue of machine keeps coming up. But the bigger issue which somehow came up post 2013 was when they decided to have a voter verified paper trail.
Hmm.
They thought that if they can have a VVPAT, as they call it, okay, accompanied with EVM, then the fact that the EVM is a dark box in which people don't know where the vote has gone, because the basic allegation or accusation against the EVM was when you press a button, you don't know whether it's getting registered, there's nothing to show. And that
Right.
is why people are most uncomfortable with this, because in a ballot paper, which is considered to be the gold standard of voting in any democracy, there is this visible, you fill up the ballot paper and you put it inside. The most simple and the most effective. But in the case of a EVM, seemingly effective, you press a button, but you don't know whether the vote is getting registered, whether it is going in that direction or not. And at the same time, there were a lot of news reports which said that you press BJP, then it goes Congress, or you press Congress, the vote goes to BJP. So how do you cross-verify that? There was no way to ascertain that.
Hmm.
That is why the VVPAT was brought in 2013. And the VVPAT, in fact, added more confusion, created more controversies, primarily because the VVPAT created an ecosystem which could be manipulated. Earlier, the EVM was a standalone machine. VVPAT has to be connected. It had to have networking in a certain way, which kind of provided a certain apprehension in the minds of people
Hmm.
that there is a third party or another party which could manipulate it.
Hmm.
And the ECI, to their great distress, could not answer many questions: where VVPAT was made, where EVM was made, what is the source code, nothing. So, despite all that, it has carried on because every time the matter came up in the Supreme Court, the Election Commission would say it's a regressive step and we cannot take it back because have to go forward, and this is something that produces results. It is efficient. It is kind of easy to count. But the truth is that there is a lot of gaps in their assertion also, because if you look at even the election which will take place in the next month or two, it's going to be staggered in 7 phases. And then they're going to get collected, and then it will take a few days for the counting to begin. Take, for example, compare with Brazil. They have election in one day and they have results the same day, and all through EVM. There is no mess. Although the population is less in comparison, But I'm sure with a larger population and with a better networking, they can do the same thing here. But here, there is so much of, you can say, police bandobas and the army bandobas, and you also have the phenomena of the EVM machine going from one constituency to another. And that is what kind of feeds apprehensions and suspicion about it, that what kind of machines are going. They could be machines which are, fixed in certain ways, a pre-program as they call it, and they would go from one place to another because they are the ones who would probably always ensure that the ruling party wins. So those questions have not been adequately answered, and
So,
that is why people have serious misgiving. There's
so
another point which I want to tell you, which has not been highlighted. There's also the issue of electoral roles. EVM is one part of it, which can be manipulated, not manipulated. I said the jury is still out. Old time chief election commissioners swear and they say that cannot be manipulated. But you also have detractors. A lot of it has been written about how VVPAT is the way forward. EVM may be fine, but not VVPAT. So, but then you have the issue of electoral rolls.
hmm,
Time and again, it has been shown that the electoral rolls have to be updated. And in the last few couple of years, there has been an updation of electoral rolls to an extent which is unbelievable, primarily because in 2019-20, colossal amount of people died due to COVID. Government says that in lakhs, but in reality, more than 4 to 5 million people died. And their names had to be deleted to ensure that, only the living vote and not the dead, because there was also clamor, a scramble in the political parties to get the dead bodies or the names of people who had already died. And that is the reason there is still uncertainty about how much ECI may have succeeded in deleting them and how many names are still there.
hmm,
There is also an allegation that a lot of inconvenient individuals, people who are opposed to the ideology of the state, their names get deleted, especially from minorities. I was talking with one, you can say, civil society organization, and they said that many a times there are accusations that the CEOs of these election bodies have color coded names. People who are positive to a party have one color, people who are opposed to it have the other color. And much of it has been, helped by the artificial intelligence, which is going to be used so aggressively in the coming election that we don't even know its implication, whether it's deep fake or identifying people through 360 degrees, depending upon how they have conducted themselves, what is their performance on Facebook, what they do. A lot of, I think, profiling has taken place. So that is an issue which kind of cause greater amount of, you can say, manipulation than EVM alone. The third thing which I wanted to point out is that in 2019, there was a professor in Ashoka University called Sabyasachi Das Parent. And he did a fantastic study, one of the better studies that have been done on election, where he pointed out in 2019, there were all the seats which had a close fight, they went to the BJP. And he was suggesting that there was something more
hmm,
than what is made out to be, because there was mobilization of votes to ensure that it happened. So that gentleman was chased out from the university that he was teaching. He's somewhere else.
hmm.
And there was a certain anxiety which was displayed by the people in power over that report. So it didn't get the kind of traction that that report deserved, but that is how it happened. So I have my fears about how this free and fair poll will really be conducted.
Yeah. You spoke about the seven-phased polls. So the opposition has been saying that this is only going to favor the BJP. But what exactly are the concerns? Because to that, the Election Commission during the press conference said India bahut bada desh hai. There's so much of, in certain pockets, we need so much of security and it's a huge country. So we need to phase it out in seven phases and that's the best way we can do it. But on the other hand, the opposition has its own concerns. What are the real concerns? I mean, if you take the politics away, what is a real concern with the seven-phase elections?
Number one, BJP has the maximum resource, so it's possible for them to conduct their election in 7 phases better than the opposition, which is starved at the moment, or even if they are not starved, they have far less resources than the ruling party.
Hmm.
So it really serves the interests of the ruling party to have it staggered in 7 phases or 10 phases. The big question is, why do you have to stagger it into 7 or 8 phases? They say that's because of reason security.
Hmm.
You have to find out, is there a major security issue in the country? Is there a lot of violence that is happening in the country? Why do you need to do that? Why do you need to, have police and army going from one place to another? It's a civilian act of civilian selection of the party or the individual who will be in rule or rule this country, not something that the army has to do it, but they do it. So that second, that is the aspect which is in my reckoning. Thirdly, I told you the apprehensions about taking contaminated EVMs from one place to another.
Hmm.
That has to be checked. Who is going to check all that?
Hmm.
So I'm sure there are far more serious reasons, but there are misgivings that emerge from this very act because the trust in the EC has gone. There's nobody who really trusts, because there were many stages in our recent life or in contemporary history where the trust could have been restored. But as of now, we don't know what kind of people have been appointed as the election commissioners, whether they're absolutely upright or not, or whether they will take decisions which are fair and objective. All that has to be seen.
Hmm. Now, after the Supreme Court's ruling over the electoral bonds, it almost seems like there is a tussle between the center and the judiciary, where now the talk is about making judges' assets public.
I think the judiciary suffers from similar problems as rest of the executive or others, branches of the state, primarily because there is so much of pile up of cases. There is people who have money manage to get a judgment in their favor. So the trust is because of that. I don't think it has got lack of trust is because of that. It's nothing to do with whether the judges declare their assets or not. Judges are mostly lawyers who've done very well. They've got a lot of money. It's not that they're short on money, but the fairness that is missing, the ability, the freedom that a poor person can go to the court and get a favorable judgment, that is not there. Until that happens, I don't think
Hmm.
that is going to really change. Look at how people in the last 10 years have come to grief. The courts are most reluctant to even take up the case of one gentleman called Umar Khalid. Why? Why can't they hear his case? Or for that matter, so many people who were arrested in Delhi riots. Those are the issues. See, imagine there was one gentleman in Bhima Koregaon, Stan Swami. He died in prison primarily because he was denied a straw to drink water. Can you imagine? Something so brutal has happened. Much to so how can the judiciary or courts credibility or can go up, or people can trust on where the court stands?
Also, another issue is the Election Commission itself. Now, the Election Commission has ordered the removal of the DGP of West Bengal and the Home Secretaries of in 6 states. Some members of the opposition have cried foul, and they have said that the BJP is controlling the Election Commission. That apart, we've seen the resignation. We recently saw the resignation of Arun Goel. There have been various concerns raised even in the past over the functioning of the ECI. Do you think these concerns or allegations against the Election Commission are unfounded, or is there meat to at least some of the allegations?
I think no allegation is unfounded, primarily because, as I said, there's lack of trust. There has to be. We don't even know how, why the chief election commissioner, former chief election commissioner Lavasa had to go.
Hmm.
Where did he go wrong? What did happen to him? Was he removed or was he made to go because he antagonized the party in power, the prime minister or somebody like that? If that can happen, and if there's no immunity for CEC to take action or to perceive the world that he lives in a certain way, then they are really just handmaidens in the of the government,
Hmm.
and which is, I think, rather distressing. So similarly, Arun Goel decided to go away. There's no truth. There's no you can say information, and there's no media expose also, which shows that how tightly everything is controlled. So in those circumstances, I don't know. whether EC can really be trusted to hold a free and fair election at the moment.
Hmm. No, with the elections approaching, the truth is that whether we like it or not, the BJP seems to be far more confident and moving ahead, targeting, or in fact, let's say, declaring that they will get more than 400 seats. On the other hand, we are seeing the opposition, which is in a state of disarray. What is your analysis of the current state of affairs as far as the opposition's India alliance is concerned? Will they be able to make a mark at all?
I think the writing's on the wall very clearly that the BJP is expected to do very well. But primarily because, people think that no party in power is in a position to win. I was talking with a senior Congress leader and I asked him, what is, in your view, are the major issues on which the election will be fought? So he said it will be might be fought on inflation, be fought on unemployment, which is very huge, especially amongst the young. And Rahul Gandhi has been going around doing all that. But the truth is that nobody believes that we can defeat the BJP. So, despite the misgivings, despite many things, I think BJP has managed to get created an ecosystem, have managed to get supporters and a lot of people who think that they are coming back to power. And till something very dramatic happens, that is how it looks like.
It almost seems like the opposition has conceded defeat.
I mean, if you look at it, the opposition parties are under a colossal, pressure of sorts. Many of the people have joined the BJP. I have
Hmm.
never been able to understand how people who are diametrically opposite in terms of ideologies cross from one side to another.
Hmm.
BJP is a different party, Congress is a different party, left is a different party. How does people from the Congress go to the BJP
Hmm.
to do what?
It-
And that's how every day you see one person or the other going and crossing over.
hmm.
Rahul Gandhi in the Bombay rally or Mumbai rally said in so many words that there was a former chief minister of the state who cried that he's being persuaded to cross over to the BJP.
Hmm.
How does that happen? Why does that happen? But I
Hmm.
think BJP is very conscious about it. They know that if there are no people, there's no party. They have ensured that the Congress is left with no middle rung leaders, nobody at all.
Hmm.
And even if they have support or intentions of coming to power, they would not have the people to somehow push them forward.
Hmm. So my last question to you is, what are your concerns related to the impending elections? Is there going to be a fair level playing field for all players and parties involved? Is polarization going to be the major factor? What are the prime concerns?
I mean, my prime concern is not just about the elections, which is it's always a very flawed electoral process that we see. Nothing is perfect. But what emerges out of this election? Do we have a democracy which is far more enduring, deeper? Do we see the empowering of the media, or is it going to be far more servile? What happens to our democracy when you have a party in power which wins about 400 seats, even if it is not 400? If they win about 350, 300 odd, how do they conduct themselves? How do an individual, people, policies really get impacted? Because if it carries on in much the same manner as we have seen till now, I think we are going to go through a very tough phase in the coming years.
Thanks a lot for your insights. Thank you for talking to me, sir.
Thank you for talking with me.